So now we're done weaving. We've kept track of all of our measurements, and here's my actual notes. I made notes of all the times that I advanced the warp, and I just kept track of it and kept adding it and adding it and adding it. And every time I moved my marker, I wrote it down, and when it added up to 72 inches, I knew that I was done. And we've already done the hem stitching because I made a note that we hem stitched to begin with. So we're at the point where we're ready to cut this off the loom. And then we're going to do some fringe on the ends of the scarf. And you really have a lot of choices for fringe. You can do your planning so that you know for a fact that you're going to have 3x3 or 6x6 or whatever. And so that's part of your planning for the warp. And you have some really neat options. This is a really fancy knotted fringe. This is a plain knotted fringe. This one is just hem stitching with no other treatment, and that hem stitching is going to hold your warp in, and you can trim it to whatever length you want. And this is the twisted fringe that we're going to be doing on this scarf. The first thing to do is cut it off the loom. And I know as a knitter you might be worried about cutting yarn, but this is kind of fun. So first thing you're going to do is you're going to cut right across the back here. And it always is a kind of a moment of truth, and you want to make sure that you've got enough warp that you're going to be able to do whatever fringe you want. You might have a little bit left that you could weave, but we've reached 72 inches, so we're all ready to go. That hem stitching is going to hold everything secure, so you're really fine. So you're going to cut it, and literally just cut it all the way across. And you're going to pull it through the heddle. See, it's all safe and secure. And then you're going to take off the ratchet so that it is free, and you're going to pull your scarf off your loom. So on the other end, we're all still tied on. Woo, all that weaving. We're still tied on, and we have to undo those knots. So we have all these knots. And we have to remove our header. So in order to untie the knots, I'm going to use a little help. I'm going to use a tapestry needle, and you kind of stick it in the knot and wiggle it, and it helps to loosen it up. And you're going to untie that top knot, and then you have to untie the surgeon's knot. And you're going to do this all the way across so that your project is completely free and off the loom. There's one. And then we're going to pick out our header, because remember, that's not part of your scarf. You're not going to leave that in there. And you've got all this length that you use to tie on to create the kind of fringe that you want. So that was why we were careful with how much we tied on. Last one. And we're going to get this loom out of the way, and then I'm going to teach you how to make twisted fringe. It's pretty cool. It's kind of a magic trick. There we go. So we've taken it off the loom, and we have the yarn that we use to tie the knots, and we have a header. And we need to take that header out because it's not part of your finished scarf. I mean, obviously it's not very pretty sitting there. I'm using this book as a weight just to kind of hold everything still while you work so it doesn't slide around. Remember, I tied a knot here just to keep the ends behaving themselves, so we're going to untie that. And then we're going to use a tapestry needle. You can either pick this out one row at a time, just pulling it through carefully, or you can use the scissors and you can cut each one of these loops and then just pull them out. So it depends on, you know, how careful you are and how good your eyesight is. So you don't want to cut your warp yarn. So if you want to cut them, you just need to make sure that there's a nice clear loop to cut, because you don't want to cut the yarn that you're going to be using to twist. So you cut these loops. Just make sure that warp yarn's not in there. And then we're just going to pull them right out the side. And on this side. Okay, so when you cut the loops, then you have an end. You can just pull them out. And once you get this all picked out, then we're going to do twisted fringe. On your pattern, it says that we're going to do 3x3 twisted fringe. And what that means is that you're going to use 3 strands and 3 strands. And we did this on purpose because we have 90 ends, and that's going to work out even. Sometimes if you don't have an even number, you might start with 4x4 and then work your way to a number that divides easily, but that's how you figure it out. We're going to do 3x3 twisted fringe. And you do this by gathering 3 and 3. And it's really nice because we did the hem stitching that way too. So your bundles are really obvious to see. So you're going to twist each bundle to the right. And you're going to keep twisting until it's really tight. And this is a little, you got to use, got to use your fingers and hold on to it. Don't let it go. And see, it's really tight, so it'll kink. So that means it's tight enough. So you're going to twist it until it does that, until it kinks up like that. Keep it straight. Then you're going to hold it, and you're going to twist the other one the same way, to the right, until it is really tight and it kinks. See them both kink? So when you get it twisted really good, then you're going to tie it in a knot at the bottom. And you're going to have to decide how long you want your fringe to be. And you're going to try and make all your fringe the same length. So then you're going to tie a knot, just an overhand knot. And snug it up. And then you're going to let it go. And it's going to twist back on itself. And that's the magic. Tighten up that knot. And then eventually we're going to trim all this off. So let's do another one. I'm going to take each bundle of 3. Then you're going to take one, twist it to the right till it kinks. And then you're going to twist the other one to the right. And this is where you're going to try and get them all the same length. Tie a knot in the bottom. And let it go. And it twists back on itself and makes a really pretty fringe. So I'm going to keep doing this, and we'll need to do it on the other end. And then we're going to wash this because wet finishing is really important to the way the scarf feels. And when we get done with that, we're going to trim some ends, and you're going to be all done.